Hi, I'm Peter.
And I'm Will.
And you're watching Anderson Jazz Jams.
Episode number 19.
This channel is supported by our generous Patreons that give as little as $1 a month, and you can find the link in the description below.
This week we're going to perform a song composed by the great songwriter Harry Warren. It was played by Louis Armstrong, and it's called Jeepers Creepers. This week on Technique Tips, we're going to talk a little bit about articulation, or more commonly known by reed players as tonguing. Because on the clarinet and the saxophone, we want to tongue as efficiently as possible without it getting too in the way of our sound and our technique. And one of our teachers over the years by the name of Alan Kay, who's a great clarinetist, really had a lot to impart on us about articulation, and I wanted to give you a little bit of his philosophy. He said to think of articulating on the reed instruments like the air is a giant wave and the tongue is just riding the wave. So instead of focusing so much about what the tongue is doing, you want to think about the air, and the tongue is just going to be riding on top of the air. And this goes generally for articulation that's legato, where you want the sound to be as long as possible. And we're generally going for the tip of the tongue on kind of just below the tip of the reed. It can sometimes be actually on the front of the reed, right there. Obviously, staccato tonguing, when you have more separation, is a little bit different, but you still want to think about being as light as possible on the reed.
This week on Improve Your Improv, we're going to talk about learning chord progressions by ear. This might seem pretty far-fetched to a lot of you, but a great way to improve your improvising is actually to be able to hear a chord progression and hear where the chords are going, hear what chords are happening. You might be on a gig and not know a song. A song's totally foreign to you, and as a good jazz musician you want to be able to figure out the chords. If you're playing the melody on the song, you already have a big leverage because you're hearing the melody and you're also hearing what's going on behind you. You can identify first what's the bass note, then you know the root of the chord, and then after that what's the chord quality? Is it a dominant chord, minor, or major chord? And then if you get even more advanced, you can move on to chords like augmented, diminished, half diminished, and altered chords. You really want to be able to start to pick out these things slowly.
This week on Things You Don't Learn in Music School, we want to talk a little bit about networking, because when you meet people on a regular basis, whether it be at your own performances or when you're attending another performance, having your own business card. And this comes really in handy when networking at performances or jam sessions, just any type of social event. Even though a lot of things now are online with Facebook and Instagram and that kind of thing, business cards will never go away, because it's a really good physical connection that you can make with someone when you're just chatting about giving lessons or giving a performance or a new project that you're interested in doing. So I encourage all of you to get your own business cards printed. It's not that expensive, and get your name and your contact information and your instrument on it.
This week on Jazz Hangouts, we're going to talk about the DJANGO, which is at the Roxy Hotel in New York. And it's a very new jazz club that's got many bands playing, several every night. We're going to be playing there on September 21st. It's partly managed by a great saxophonist here in New York City named Ken Fauser. And the DJANGO has many great jazz groups playing, all the way from jazz trios to jazz big bands. It's in Tribeca, which is a really hip neighborhood in New York. Come see us there on September 21st at the DJANGO.
This week's Lick of the Week, we're going to play a fun little riff that comes really in handy when navigating tough chord changes, but it's also simple because it just uses 5 notes of the major scale. So you can notice that when I'm playing it, I'm actually moving it down in half steps every time I play the riff. So if I were to play it in just one key at a time, it would sound like this. If you can play that at home, it's just the scale degrees of 5, 4, 3, 5, 1, 2, 3, 5. So if you play those, then you move it down a half step. It has a cool riff, and it's very useful over jazz chord changes.
If you get more advanced, you could move it up in fourths every time, and it would sound like this.
Or you could even move down in whole steps.
This week on Cats You Should Know, we're going to cover a great pianist named Konrad Paszkudski. He's originally from Australia. He's a wonderful pianist that's based in New York City, and he's a member of John Pizzarelli's trio. John Pizzarelli is a great guitarist, the son of Bucky Pizzarelli, and they tour all over the world. Konrad also leads his own group. He's performed at Dizzy's Club, all over the place. And you can check him out online. He's got tons of records. Konrad is an expert in the American songbook. He knows so many of these great American Broadway songs, like by Gershwin and Cole Porter. I highly recommend you check him out. He's got a very unique style, a la the great Oscar Peterson, and he really works his butt off, playing all over the place, running his own projects, and playing with John Pizzarelli. So please check out Konrad Paszkudski.
We really want to thank all of our Patreons who donate as little as $1 a month. It really helps run this channel with our camera and our editing and all that. So we're going to keep pumping out videos every week for you all. And please check out the link below. We'll see you next week.